Ladies and gentlemen, now today we got a collaboration that I've been working on with Chronic Nostalgia for a couple of days. We've got an updated Signature Stone spend guide for October 2020. So man after Chronic Nostalgia, if you're not familiar with him, he does all sorts of amazing infographics for the Marvel Contest of Champions community. If you've seen like an Immunities infographic or a Best Champions to Awaken infographic, there is so much of his stuff that goes around on Reddit, Line, Facebook. So yeah, he's very, very talented when it comes to putting stuff like this together. However, we've been working on the Signature Stone spend guide because this is a guide, a bit of information that people have been asking for a very, very long time. And we've divided it into 4 sections. So we've got ideally max Sig. So these are like your top tier meta characters that ideally, if you want to get the most out of them, you want Sig 200. So these are the ones that are so good they're arguably generic worthy. And then you've got solid investments. So these are characters that really benefit from having signature stones and additional levels in them, and are really good characters generally speaking as well. We also have a great at Sig 1, just to represent the characters that just having them awakened, you already get kind of the bulk of what you need from their awakened ability. For example, like Nick Fury, like coming back, Corvus Glaive, you've got their cheat, death, and immunity, and then we have the top prestige category. So this list actually in order all of the top 5-star prestige characters from every single class, and all of the characters listed in top prestige, fully maxed out as 5-star rank 5 Sig 200 champions, are over 10,500 prestige. So there are 6 in every single class, but again, one thing I am going to highly recommend alongside this video is the Aunt May website. If you're not already familiar with it, it's just an amazing source of information, because when it comes to investing in signature stones and additional awakened ability levels, it can give you the exact information on how much like putting like 20 or 40 additional stones into a character is actually going to benefit that character, and it shows you in terms of a graph how characters' signature abilities scale up. So this can help you to plan better and understand the value that you're getting for signature stones invested. You can see a character like Hyperion has a very flat line. He's a character that, like, when awakened as a 5-star champion, like immediately gets the bulk of his signature ability. However, if we look at a character like Void, for example, Void starts off having a very low benefit from his signature ability, but with the full 200 levels gains a massive benefit to his attack rating and also applies his debuffs much faster as well. So Aunt May can help you to understand and look at each individual character so you can efficiently plan out like how you want to upgrade their signature abilities and kind of maximize the value that you get for the stones that you spend. So use this as a bit of a rough guide as to what characters you should look at investing in, but use Aunt May if you want more information on how the awakened abilities actually work, and also the prestige of each characters as well. There's a very detailed prestige list for 5-star, 6-star champions, I think even 4-star ones as well, so you get the full information at various Sig levels of how much prestige your character does offer. And prestige, at least in my opinion, is only something you really want to worry about if you're shooting to be in like a top 200 alliance or so. Aside from that, if you're just looking to play the game and have fun, then just don't worry about prestige too much. Prestige is basically an additional multiplier for Alliance Quest difficulty, and allows you to get more points. So when it comes to being in a top alliance, if you want the maximum points, you need to have maximum prestige characters. But again, if you're not fussed about that, then yeah, you don't need to sweat over prestige. So starting off in the mutant class, we've got the ideally max Sig champions. We've got Omega Red first, and his awakened ability deals additional damage every single second if you got 10 or more death spores on the opponent, and this is really, really significant because it scales with base attack as well, and it's just huge damage if you run the suicide masteries on top of some pretty good damage output already. So yeah, if you want to get the most out of Omega, and he's really, really spicy, you do want that Sig ability, and you do want it fully maxed out. And then we got Colossus. So Colossus's awakened ability helps him ramp up much faster, and also in longer fights deal a lot more damage as well. So what it does is whenever you trigger one of his immunities, you gain a chance to gain an armor up buff, but also whenever passive armor ups expire, then there's also a chance to convert them into permanent armor ups. And in longer fights, this just helps you, get all your armor ups and then just spam the special 2s and just absolutely destroy the opponent. Because if you have the Emma Frost and Omega Red synergies. You know, you want the max amount of armor you can have to increase the power gain and also attack bonus there. So yeah, the combo of everything is really, really nice. And then we've got Namor's Sig ability, which ideally you do want this character fully maxed out. He's like top 5-star mutant prestige as well. But Namor, what he does is he reflects any of the damage that he's taking while he's attacking into the opponent and deals it back to the opponent. So this is really fun for certain nodes and scenarios when you attack it and take damage, like for example Korg, Electro, more recently as well Terrax is really, really good for, because you can just stand in his rock field and just nuke him, and like you're dealing all of the damage of his rock field back to Terrax. That's a really, really fun interaction. So Namor is a really fun champion to have max Sig, but just keep in mind that if you have him anything lower, instead of reflecting all of the damage, you're reflecting a portion of the damage. So that's why he's a character that, again, to get the most out of him, really does need to be Sig 200, but he has a lot of cool uses in various endgame scenarios. So yeah, I still like Namor, man, and in the right node combination or the right matchup, he can just be an absolute lifesaver there and make the fight very, very easy. Now, in terms of mutant solid investments, we got Sunspot, Magneto, Professor X, Archangel. A lot of these characters, again, don't need to be like max Sig, but they're good to chuck the additional stones into. Like Archangel as well, you kind of want him at a level where the neurotoxins are providing at least a 33% ability accuracy reduction, because then like 3 of them is pretty much going to cancel out all of the opponent's effects, like Magic's Limbo, for example. Wolverine, as high as you can get if you really do like this guy. And also, what is it, Magneto, the white version that's been recently buffed, is not too bad, but needs a few Sigs in order to get the most out of his armor break and also bleed. And Storm Pyramid X, if you want that crazy, like, what is it, 30% phase where she has access to both Tempest abilities, then yeah, that could be quite nice as well. Graded Sig 1, Iceman, you get the Cold Snap and also the evade counter like straight off the bat, and I think that's one of the main benefits of Iceman. You can get a bit more damage from investing more Sig stones, but yeah, like I think he's just graded Sig 1, at least in my personal opinion there. And then we got top prestige, so we got Namor, Platinum Paul, Sunspot, Gold Paul, Apocalypse and Professor X, all pretty spicy characters, some more spicy than the others, but Apocalypse is a really, really nice champion to have overall, but he really doesn't need the awakened ability. Like the awakened ability can give him like a bit of regeneration when other characters win fights, and it is nice to have, but again, he really doesn't need it, really doesn't need the Sig stones. There are better characters to invest in overall, but if you want him for prestige, you know, he's a top 5 option in the mutant class, so something to consider there as well. And then in the skill class, we have Aegon, easily a top 5 champion overall. This guy's amazing for Labyrinth, the Abyss, but his awakened ability allows him to transfer a percentage of his combo from fight to fight, and the more Sig stones you have in, the higher the level, the more of that combo you transfer on. So yeah, it's really nice for getting him ramped up quicker and easier when it comes to stuff like the Abyss and Labyrinth. You can argue that Aegon, you know, is still good at like Sig 20 and still can eventually do like everything he needs to at lower Sig levels as well, but yeah, just the more stones, at least in my opinion, the more easy it makes to play this character, and it just makes him easier to ramp up in stuff that's like not Labyrinth and the Abyss as well, if you want to use him for like various challenges and certain paths in Act 6. So yeah, Aegon, top 5 character in the game, very solid investment, at least in my opinion. And then in the solid investments category, we have Black Widow, we got Stealth Suit Spider-Man, Elsa Bloodstone and Night Thrasher, all gain some pretty nice damage bonuses from their awakened ability. Night Thrasher probably relies on it more than the other 3 for bigger damage if you do like playing him, but he does take a lot in order to be quite a spicy champion there. Black Widow has the ability accuracy reduction. Taskmaster and Thor Ragnarok, I would say, are much more reliant on their awakened abilities and high Sig to deal some pretty decent damage, but Thor Ragnarok, you know, he requires a lot to be very, very good. However, one of the reasons a lot of people invest in him and take him up is he's still one of the top prestige characters as a 5-star and the top skill prestige as well, so that's the reason why there are far too many 5-star rank 5 Sig 200 Thors in this game. And then graded Sig 1, we got Gwenpool for tanking the special 3s and also her ability accuracy reduction, Nick Fury for the real Nick Fury phase, and also Blade for the regeneration. You could argue that Blade's a pretty solid investment as well, just due to the fact that, you know, it reduces the cost of power for him to regenerate holding block. But even at low Sig, man, he's still really, really good with that regeneration and still kind of does everything that you want him to, in my opinion. But yeah, he can use like a few levels as well. It's not the worst choice to chuck a few stones into Blade. And then top prestige, we got Thor Ragnarok, Hit Monkey, Stealth Suit Spider-Man, Squirrel Girl, Black Widow, and Elsa Bloodstone. Then moving on to the science class, we got Captain America Infinity War. Now, based on his signature ability level, he has a chance to apply debuffs on parry based on the characters that you have on your team. And the most like famous use for these debuffs is blocking out and also reversing healing. It's very, very powerful. You've got stuff like, again, the heal reduction and reversal. You also have weakness debuffs. You've got an armor break as well. You also have the skill synergy, which is whenever you gain a debuff, you have a chance to consume kinetic potential to purify it, and for slower application poison nodes, like there is a node in the game that applies poison once every 7 seconds. It allows him to counter nodes in scenarios like that, but also that can work for Invisible Woman, for example. She applies her, vulnerability to you, and then goes invisible, and if you get rid of that, she instantly comes out of invisibility. So yeah, there's a lot of cool uses for his awakened ability, and it works in a lot of scenarios. However, the one thing you want from his awakened ability is a sense of reliability. So yeah, in order to get that reliability out of Captain America Infinity War, which you really want for a lot of endgame content and tackling heal reversal scenarios, like you do want him max Sig, and he's a very good champion to invest in. Like I love my Captain America Infinity War. So yeah, for use, man, a really good tool to have in your roster there. And then next up, we got Void. So Void is a character I fully maxed out in Sig 200 earlier this year, and he's just so good for all sorts of scenarios. And as we covered earlier, Void's awakened ability allows him to convert all of his debuff into an intimidating presence. So this is really essential for the character, because this basically is all of the debuffs combined, and then he starts stacking even more debuffs on top of that. But his awakened ability also gives you a massive attack bonus when you have this debuff active, and allows your debuffs to apply even faster as well. So yeah, just really, really essential for getting the most out of Void, and he's still a really good character for countering like heavy power gain scenarios and also heal reverse scenarios as well, and also just has a lot of like passive damage that's constantly going on and like tearing the opponent apart. So yeah, still a big fan of both Captain America Infinity War and Void. And then solid investments, we got Red Guardian, really nice additional increase to damage output, and also makes him a lot more practical to play with his awakened ability. We've also got Thing for his protection, Human Torch for his chance to rekindle his pre-fight ability and get access to like that crazy Nova Flame God mode again. Then we got She-Hulk. She-Hulk gains various bonuses based on who she's fighting. It's really quite nice there. Then we got Gladiator Hulk, who either gains regeneration or fury when the opponent is low health, which can be a nice little top-up for the man. Then we got Hulk, gains more damage. Spider-Gwen gains a bit more damage overall, a little bit more utility on certain stuff as well. I think it increases her slow duration a bit. Mr. Fantastic kind of needs to be awakened in high Sig in order to get the most out of him and his damage output. He's a little bit light overall, at least in my opinion, when it does come to the utility of this character, and does require a fair bit, you know, in terms of team synergy to really get the most out of him. But he is also #1 for Science Prestige, and I know that is something that some players will look at as well. Luke Cage for the invincibility, and also Red Hulk for his additional heat charges and incinerate resistance at the beginning of the fight, are both great at Sig 1. Like Red Hulk, you know, ideally could use like 20-40 levels to get that incinerate resistance up a bit more, but like even at Sig 1, man, he gets the additional damage bonus at the start, which is what you're after in the majority of matchups. And again, top prestige, we got Mr. Fantastic. Red Guardian is #2, Thing, Human Torch, Sentry, and also Invisible Woman. But I think past what is it, Mr. Fantastic, Red Guardian and Thing. Like, these three are a fair bit lower down the list, so just something to consider as well. Human Torch really isn't that high for prestige, but all of them are over 10,500. So yeah, they're not bad options, man. And a Human Torch like can be really, really good to have up high sig, especially if you're taking him like deep into Abyss of Legends and going for 100% there. Now, next up in the Mystic class, the good thing about a lot of Mystics is they're really, really good unawakened. And there was nobody that I felt was kind of at that beyond god tier, like absolutely insane level that needed the max sig. But there are a lot of characters that are solid investments for Mystic Sig Stones and still benefit quite significantly from it. If you're looking for prestige overall, Dr. Doom has Fat Boy prestige, but he really doesn't need the awakened ability. He gets like one of the strongest benefits from it at Sig 1, but it's nice to have if you want the additional chance to convert what is it, buffs on the opponent into shock, and in certain scenarios and matchups like Resistor, and I think Aegon as well, just allows you to spam heavy attacks, so it can be cheesy at certain points there. But solid investments, Mojo, if you really like this character, ideally you want him Sig 200 to maximize his Fury there. He's very reliant on that to get some really, really big damage output. Scarlet Witch as well, very reliant on a high sig level in order to maximize the chance of proccing really good buffs that increase her damage output, give her regeneration, bit of power control, stun as well. Tigra as well allows you to get into fights much faster because you start with both of your primal senses active, so this can be really nice for skilled Tigra players. And then we got Dr. Voodoo, who increases the duration of buffs and debuffs. What is it, we got Dragon Man, who reduces the potency of buffs on the opponent depending on the matchup. Longshot, who gets a chance to nullify buffs and also can replicate stuff like unstoppable and unblockable effects on the opponent. Ghost Rider, who gains the additional Fury Judgment. Sorcerer Supreme, who increases the what is it, effectiveness of her stances by a small amount as well, so it's a nice little bonus to have for the character there. And then we got the Great at Sig 1, so we got Dr. Doom, Morningstar for the additional soul that she starts with, but more Sig levels can increase the potency of the buffs that she copies off the opponent as well. And then we got Symbiote Supreme, who has that stagger right at the start of the fight, which will also come back every certain amount of seconds depending on the Sig level, and it's nice to have up, but I think the main functionality for his awakened ability is really just like controlling the fight right at the beginning, and it's really useful for like the Champion, Medusa, Hyperion, but you know, he's not too bad to chuck a few more levels in if you want a more frequent stagger there. And then top prestige wise, we got Dr. Doom, we got Tigra, Sasquatch, also Sorcerer Supreme, Dragon Man, and Black Widow Clairvoyant. Now moving on to the Cosmic class, I think you can make a pretty good argument that Captain Marvel maybe belongs up here, so I was going back and forth on this one, but she'd probably be my first pick for solid investments, because the higher her sig level, the longer her immunity is when she hits binary ignition, and that can be very useful in certain scenarios and phases, like getting around loads of fun interactive damage there. Cull Obsidian, if you want even more damage output on this guy, could be really nice to invest in if you love wrecking stuff. Silver Surfer, really amazing option for prestige, both as a 5 and 6 star champion, but it gives him a what is it, a bit more potency on his buffs, so gives him even more damage output there. Then we have Proxima Midnight, who basically increases the potency of her Fury that she gains at the 100 hit combo mission based on the sig level, so you can get a lot more damage output via that. But Proxima, she's a lot of overkill already, so yeah, maybe you don't need it, but if you really like her, you know, she's not the worst to invest in. And then we got Red Goblin, so it increases the potency of the second buff that you get on him during Frenzy, so if you want to get the most out of Red Goblin, really nice investment there. Venom the Duck, I think the primary thing is increasing the duration of the armor burns on the SB2, because yeah, then you can stack up to 4 of them and you can hit really, really hard after that, so his awakened ability is quite nice. Venom also increases the potency of his buffs, but also gives him a chance at the start of the match to gain an additional one. So like Venom the Duck and Venom are still really good unawakened, but their awakened abilities are like a nice little bonus. And also, if you love cheese, Ronan gives like additional stun duration based off his sig level, based off the amount of buffs on the opponent as well. So yeah, if you want really long stuns, man, Ronan's a fun one to take up as like a 3 or 4 star champion for just cheesing certain buff-heavy bosses and scenarios there. And then great at Sig 1, we've got Hyperion, gains the majority of his awakened ability benefit there. Then you've got the Corvus Immortality, so this guy can't die as long as you've got one glaive charge active. Medusa, you gain the additional Fury, so a lot more damage output there. But you gain all of the benefit from Sig 1, and additional Sigs just increases the chance for you to auto-block and consume those Furies. So yeah, she's great at Sig 1. Cosmic Ghost Rider, you gain the additional utility of your 5 judgments, but additional levels just increase like the passive damage dealt by that as well, so it's not really like too much of an essential increase there for Cosmic Ghost Rider, because all of his damage, all of his amazing stuff really is on the character unawakened. So yeah, Cosmic Ghost Rider is just absolutely mental. And then top prestige, we've got Silver Surfer, Phoenix, Nova, Red Goblin, Cosmic Ghost Rider, and also Captain Marvel movie. Now, moving on to the tech class, I was kind of going back and forth on this one, but I think Ghost being like a top 5 character overall, and looking at the significance of her Sig level, I think she's worthy of those generic stones if you really like Ghost, if you really do want to invest in the character. Because what her awakened ability does is every time you phase an attack, you gain at least on the base level 2% of your max power. However, if you have fully upgraded to level 200, that's 5% of max power per miss. Now, like, just saying it out loud, it doesn't sound like a massive difference, but if you look at the difference of max power that you gain phasing a 4 combo, for example, and retaliating, like initial Sig 20, for example, it's going to be out 2%, so overall 4 combos, that's going to be about 8% max power, whereas at 4 Sig 200, it's going to be 20% max power. And your main goal when playing Ghost is just to cycle the special 2s and get like as much damage output as possible from them. So yeah, this really helps boost up the power gain and also the damage output. So I think, if you do want to get the most out of Ghost, she's a champion that is worth investing in, and a lot of top level Ghost players have a fully maxed out Sig 200, and personally there's a huge difference between like playing my unawakened Ghost and my 5-star Sig 200 in terms of the power gain. The power gain is absolutely ridiculous, and again, she's at a top 5, top 3 you could say champion overall in the game, just demolishes so much content. Is an absolute cheat code for the majority of Act 6 as well, so she's definitely worth the investment if you are going to be playing her the majority of the time. But also in the tech class, depending on your personal preferences, what you enjoy playing, there are a lot of solid investments. You've got Guardian, get a lot more utility, a lot more block proficiency, bleed resistance, energy resistance, crit resistance off his awakened ability, Darkhawk, a lot more damage output off that special 3, and also bonuses in all of your various modes as well. Dr. Octopus can siphon more power and more healing off the opponent the higher Sig he is. And then we got the characters that are great at Sig 1, so Sentinel can now gain analysis charges off the opponent using special attack, twice in a row, so it makes his ramp up significantly easier and quicker. Also, Star-Lord starts gaining the additional attack bonus whenever you hit into the opponent for every single hit on your combo meter. So yeah, more Sigs on Star-Lord are certainly appreciated if you do really want to get the most out of this character. But even at Sig 1, man, he unlocks that massive damage bonus potential. Vision steals a bit of the opponent's power. In all fairness, this Vision should probably be up there with solid investments, because again, the more Sig stones, the more power you steal back from the opponent. But yeah, I think he's still only available max as a 4-star champion, but I may be incorrect on that one. I think he may have popped up as a 5-star at some point. And then we've got Starknout Spider-Man. So even at like Sig 1, you still get like a massive crit chance bonus based on the amount of poise you have. So yeah, even at Sig 1, Stark Spidey is still really, really good for all that additional crit damage. But yeah, I think you don't really need like too many levels on it, maybe like 20-40 to hit like the crit damage cap, and then anything after that is a little bit wasted, I think, because he's very, very low for prestige. But even at Sig 1, absolutely phenomenal champion. And then top prestige, we've got Guardian, Warlock, Punisher 2099 now. His prestige got upgraded after the buff as well. Guillotine 2099, again, very good unawakened champion, and also Mysterio. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for the Signature Stone Spend Guide for October 2020. Once again, mad love to my boy Chronic Versalgia for the help on this this guide and also this infographic as well. So yeah, links to Art May and also this infographic and Chronic Versalgia's Twitter are going to be in the description of the video. So if you do want to check any of this stuff out for yourself, you can do below. But aside from that, thank you all very much for watching. Please do smash that like button if you did enjoy it. Take care, and I hope that you have an absolutely fantastic day.